You wake up to your child's report card on the kitchen table, and it's full of could-do-better notes. Instead of consoling or blaming the teacher, Machiavelli would tell you to treat this as an investment decision. Where will your attention, resources, and pressure yield the highest return? You don't soothe away consequences, you set a clear standard and explain what success looks like, then remove distractions that dilute effort. That might mean less screen time, a stricter homework schedule, or hiring a tutor, not because you're cruel, but because you've decided your child's future competence is worth prioritizing above neighborhood politics, comfort, or your own guilt. You're not acting out of coldness. You're choosing the long game. In practical terms, that means you'll monitor progress weekly, reward measurable improvement instead of empty praise, and cut off activities that consistently pull focus from learning. Machiavelli wouldn't sugarcoat the message. Competence is protection, you choose it for them because no one else will. When siblings fight over chores or parental attention, most families default to fairness, split everything down the middle, and then wonder why resentment grows. Machiavelli would watch who actually carries weight and who avoids it, then reward contribution, not equality of burden. In a modern household that looks like assigning responsibilities according to capability and giving public recognition where it's earned, the kid who handles the dog walks gets the later curfew because they've demonstrated reliability. You don't strive for mythical balance, you cultivate competence and usefulness. If one child continually shirks, you create natural consequences that are non-negotiable, fewer privileges, more responsibilities, because allowing freeloading teaches the entire family to expect others to carry them. That's uncomfortable, but it's honest. Relationships that protect you and pull weight deserve priority. At school, when parents and teachers argue over academic standards, Machiavelli would cut through the moral theater and ask, who benefits when standards slip? He would align himself with the outcome that produces measurable success for the child and call out sentimental policies that mask underperformance. In a PTA meeting where inclusivity is being used to justify lower expectations, he would push for objective metrics, clear remediation plans, and accountability for the adults responsible for educating. He'd encourage parents to lobby for what actually improves learning, smaller class sizes, targeted tutoring, or different curricula, rather than performative measures that make everyone feel better but change nothing. His approach isn't mean, it's strategic. Prioritize the structures that produce results, because competence trumps comfort every time. When a teenager is overwhelmed by extracurriculars and grades, and every adult offers conflicting advice, Machiavelli wouldn't center feelings, he'd center leverage. He'd ask which activities advance the teen's long-term leverage, scholarships, networks, or marketable skills. Then he'd remove the noise. If varsity sports offer connections and discipline needed for the teen's future, keep them. If they're just vanity badges, cut them. He'd help the teen make trade-offs, teaching them that choosing yourself sometimes looks like saying no to others' expectations so you can say yes to your future. This is harsh because it forces decisions, but it's liberating because it creates an effective life plan rather than an overcommit, underachieving identity. Family arguments about caregiving, money, or roles don't get solved by nice speeches, they get solved by clearly defined incentives and predictable consequences. If an aging parent needs help and multiple children throw around guilt without taking action, Machiavelli would secure the person who actually acts. He'd formalize agreements: who pays, who visits, who manages medication, and what happens if someone fails to deliver. He'd make social consequences real, public accountability within the family group, reallocation of inheritance, or legally binding arrangements. This seems ruthless, but it eliminates the passive-aggressive maneuvers that wreck families. Choosing yourself here means protecting your time and emotional bandwidth while ensuring the elder receives competent care, and rewarding those who deliver it. In classrooms full of noisy kids and under-resourced teachers, Machiavelli would coach the child to become indispensable, show up more prepared, volunteer for leadership roles, and outperform quietly. He'd advise parents to fund little advantages that compound: private reading time, enrichment programs, or disciplined morning routines, because systemic inequality isn't corrected by hope. The point isn't to hoard privilege for its own sake, it's to build the child's resilience and options. In practical terms, that means prioritizing sleep, structured study, and mentorship rather than being the parent who says they'll be fine while accepting mediocrity. That kind of self-directed investment yields the leverage kids need to thrive without waiting for the system to catch up. At work, when the office mantra is "we're a family but promotions go to the smooth talker instead of the doer," Machiavelli would advise you to stop playing by sentimental rules. You treat your career like a portfolio you manage, identify which projects build reputation, which managers are promotable, and which alliances protect your growth. If someone takes credit for your work, you don't cry to HR first, you produce irrefutable documentation, expose the claim publicly in meetings, and align yourself with a more powerful sponsor. That sounds political. It is, because organizations reward political competence as much as technical skill. Choosing yourself at work means investing time in visibility, strategic relationships, and clear deliverables that cannot be stolen or ignored. When a manager expects you to be always on while underpaying you, Machiavelli would counsel a surgical response: calculate your true market value and either negotiate from position of strength or find a gig that matches your worth. You don't burn bridges emotionally, you reduce dependency. If you must stay, you make your time scarce, automate tasks, delegate where possible, and set uncompromising boundaries that signal you're not exploitable. He would also document everything and create optionality, side projects, certifications, or freelance clients, so you are never held hostage by a single paycheck. This is choosing yourself by building escape routes rather than waiting for someone else to value you. During office politics, whispered rumors, back-channel alliances, and covert power plays, Machiavelli would not be naive. He'd map the influence network: who decides, who obstructs, who amplifies. He'd then neutralize threats before they're threats by making small, irreversible moves that secure allies and render opponents irrelevant. That might mean offering a partnership that benefits a rival publicly, thereby co-opting them, or sharing credit selectively to create debt. In all cases, the aim is to rely on leverage and deterrence rather than moral superiority. It's ruthless in execution but conservative in risk. Protect your position by making attacks too costly. When parents face a choice between their career and children, the Machiavellian answer is not a morality play, it's a strategic optimization. He'd weigh long-term economic security against short-term presence and choose the configuration that maximizes family resilience. If your income funds better schools, health care, and future opportunities, then prioritizing work is not selfish in a vacuum, it's an investment in your family's survival. If presence matters more for psychological reasons, arrange your life to make presence effective: fewer commitments outside the home, restructuring work schedules, or hiring high-quality childcare that aligns with your standards. The core idea: act deliberately, not defensively. Choose the option that increases your family's future agency. In business negotiations where everyone smiles and signs, Machiavelli would read the small print before the handshake. He'd aim to leave the negotiation with asymmetrical benefits, clauses that favor you under specific contingencies, termination triggers that protect you, and guarantees that lock in value. He would not be sentimental about trust. He would structure contracts to perform even if trust evaporates. In practice, this means insisting on performance milestones, escrow arrangements, and non-compete boundaries only when they secure your interests. He'd also prepare the exit as carefully as the entry, options to buy out, rights to audit, and the ability to walk away without catastrophic cost. This is choosing yourself by designing deals that favor your future self when tides change. When a startup founder faces pressure from investors to grow fast at all costs, Machiavelli would say, preserve control until you have leverage. He'd take the capital that buys time, not dilution, and set metrics that justify increased valuation before surrendering governance. If investors insist on terms that could box you out, he'd walk. That sounds extreme, but it's a calculated discipline. Better to steer a smaller ship than be a passenger on a larger one. He'd also align key employees with equity and clear vesting so they act like stakeholders, not rent seekers. The principle is clear: prioritize future autonomy over present applause. When friends or family expect emotional labor without reciprocity, Machiavelli would treat the exchange as currency. You set explicit limits and calibrate generosity to evidence of reciprocal value. If someone complains about lack of help but never shows up when you need them, you adjust your investment downward. This isn't stinginess, it's efficiency. You're protecting your bandwidth for relationships that produce mutual security. In doing so, you create a social ecosystem where support is not an entitlement but a negotiated exchange, honest, predictable, and far more sustainable. In parenting choices about safety versus independence, Machiavelli would err toward cultivating competent risk-takers. He'd expose children to controlled failure so they learn decision-making and consequence management. Instead of insulating a kid from every scraped knee, he'd orchestrate scenarios where the child must strategize, small failures followed by coached reflection. That may look cold to some, but it cultivates agency and resilience, the very qualities that protect them in a precarious world. Choosing yourself as a parent here means investing in a child's ability to protect themselves, not merely protecting them from discomfort. When negotiation in business becomes personal, partners bring emotional baggage into boardrooms. Machiavelli would separate the person from the role and reframe the dispute into incentives and penalties. He'd implement neutral, pre-agreed decision rules, arbitration clauses, board vote thresholds, and independent directors who can mediate. You don't rage against a partner's personality, you redesign governance so that personality matters less than structure. That way, conflicts turn into algorithmic outcomes rather than messy feuds. It's clinical, yes, but it prevents personal drama from destroying value you created. If a parent is guilt-tripped into attending endless school events that sap mental bandwidth, Machiavelli would measure the cost-benefit, which events create real advantage or connection and which are performative noise. He'd attend strategically, show up in ways that deliver perception of support with minimal time cost, a keynote parent-teacher meeting where you leave a donation or offer a weekend mentoring session rather than nightly presence at every bake sale. That's not neglect. It's efficient allocation of scarce attention to maximize influence. When you're in a toxic workplace where praise is used as bait and criticism as weapon, Machiavelli's advice is simple: test the water with reversible moves and exit if the poison is systemic. He'd take compensation in forms that preserve mobility, bonuses, deferred compensation, or equity with clear vesting, rather than long-term promises that bind you. He'd also cultivate a professional network outside the toxic firm so departure is a real option, not a fantasy. Self-preservation doesn't mean retaliation, it means never making yourself irreplaceable in the wrong hands. In family businesses where nepotism trumps competence, Machiavelli would professionalize roles, job descriptions, performance metrics, and measurable outcomes. He'd make promotion non-negotiable based on results, not blood. If family members refuse, he'd replace them with external hires and make the cost of underperformance obvious through financial statements. This brutal clarity preserves the business and forces relatives to meet real standards or step aside. It's a tough love that protects the long-term asset. When the school's culture prizes popularity over mastery, where grades are slimmed to preserve feelings, Machiavelli would coach students to find niches where merit still matters: competitions, specialized programs, or online certifications. He'd teach them to build unassailable portfolios that bypass school politics, published work, demonstrable projects, and endorsements from recognized mentors. The strategy is to make your competence undeniable even if the institution rewards mediocrity. During mergers and acquisitions where talk of synergy hides power grabs, Machiavelli would insist on fixtures that protect the acquired party: earn-outs, escrowed liabilities, and representations that guard against post-deal surprises. He'd advise founders to retain certain control levers: IP ownership, key customer relationships, or transition periods, to prevent being culled after the acquisition. He'd view the deal as an opportunity to trade immediate gain for lasting security, not as an emotional victory lap. When parenting choices about discipline are debated, Machiavelli would separate warmth from permissiveness. He'd argue for consistent, enforceable rules delivered with clear affection. You can love someone fiercely and still expect them not to disrespect your house. Discipline is framed as training for society's real expectations, not as punishment. That means consistent consequences that are proportionate and predictable, creating an environment where children know the rules and can confidently navigate the world. In ending, the choice to put yourself first isn't permission to be cruel. It's a design principle for survival and effectiveness in a world where resources, attention, and leverage are finite. If Machiavelli lived today, he wouldn't shrug or romanticize. He'd diagnose, prioritize, and build systems that make your interests the default. He'd tell you to stop acting surprised when people act in their own interest and start acting accordingly. Structure your family, education, career, and business so you benefit when the inevitable self-interest of others surfaces. If you want more blunt, actionable scripts like this, ones that tell you exactly where to draw lines and why, hit subscribe, like, and share so more people stop confusing kindness for a strategy and start choosing themselves with clarity.